That was my mother's voice. Calm, practiced, final. The words came through a voicemail she left at exactly 9:47 on a Tuesday night. There had been no argument before it, no warning, just a 31-second message that erased 27 years of being the daughter who paid their bills, covered their emergencies, and quietly kept the whole family standing. I listened to the message twice. Then I replied with a single word. Okay. What my family didn't understand was that okay was not surrender, it was permission. Permission I gave myself to stop being their financial safety net. Within 72 hours, the family trust was locked. The refinancing plan for the house collapsed. Their attorney began leaving messages I had no interest in answering. By the next morning, my phone showed 46 missed calls and a text from their lawyer that read, "We have a serious problem." I laughed when I saw it. Before I explain what happened next, if this story resonates with you, take a moment to time it is there. I read every message. My name is Serena Hayes. I'm 27 years old. And to understand how everything unraveled, you have to go back to that Tuesday night in October. The night that voicemail changed my life. I was sitting cross-legged on my bed in my small apartment in Center City, Philadelphia, my laptop balanced on a pillow, while I finished a risk assessment report for a client whose investment portfolio was full of warning signs. Identifying risk before it exploded was literally my job. The irony wasn't lost on me. My phone buzzed on the nightstand. One missed call from my mother, Nicole Hayes, followed by a voicemail notification. I almost ignored it. My mother rarely called me directly. She usually called my younger sister Ashley, who still lived about 20 minutes from our parents' house in Ardmore, Pennsylvania. Ashley's name dominated the family group chat like a headline. When Mom contacted me, it was usually 3 words: "Call me back," or sometimes, "Send money, please." A voicemail, though, felt different, almost personal, so I pressed play. Her voice came through the speaker flat and controlled, like she had rehearsed the lines beforehand. "Serena, this is your mother. The family has made a decision. You're no longer welcome here. Don't come back. Don't make this more difficult than it needs to be. We're moving on without you." 31 seconds. I checked the playback bar. I played it again, convinced I must have missed something. A reason, a because, even a vague after what you did. But there was nothing. Just the verdict, delivered without a trial. Next, I opened the family group chat Ashley had created 2 Christmases ago. It was the one where Mom posted casserole recipes, and Dad, Stephen Hayes, shared blurry photos of birds in the backyard. I wasn't muted. I had been removed. And the group name had changed. It used to be Hayes Family. Now it simply said, Us. I guess that made me the opposite of us. I set my phone face down and stared at the framed photo on the shelf beside my bed. It showed all of us at Ashley's college graduation. Mom smiling proudly. Dad with his hand on Ashley's shoulder. Me standing on the far edge of the picture, half cropped out by whoever took it. I should have noticed the symbolism sooner. For about 10 minutes I didn't move. I just sat there with my hands in my lap while the sound of my upstairs neighbor's television drifted through the ceiling. A laugh track echoed from some sitcom, while my own family quietly voted me off the island. My first instinct was the old one. Call Mom back. Apologize. Even though I had no idea what I had done wrong. Ask how to fix it. Smooth things over. That had been my role since I was 14. Take the blame, patch the cracks, keep the peace. My thumb hovered over my mother's contact. Then something inside me stopped. Maybe it was the tone of her voice. Not angry, not emotional, just rehearsed. Or maybe it was the timing. Earlier that afternoon, I had spent hours recalculating the mortgage payments on the family house in Ardmore, the house I helped pay for. The house where Ashley slept in the master bedroom while I took the pull-out couch whenever I visited. I lowered my thumb and opened a text message instead. 1 word, okay, 5 letters. I added a period and pressed send. The screen showed delivered. Then nothing, no typing bubbles, no callback, just silence. And that silence told me everything. She expected me to chase after her, to beg, to explain. When I didn't, She had no script prepared for that. Sleep didn't come that night. Not because I was heartbroken. That wave hit around 3 in the morning, sharp and brief like a muscle cramp. No, I stayed awake because my brain reacted the way it always did under pressure. It started analyzing. I opened my laptop and created a spreadsheet. Title: Family Financial Obligations. Serena Hayes column. A. Item column. B. Monthly amount column. C. Duration column. D. Total. Then I started filling it in. What appeared line by line was the real cost of being the dependable daughter. It was much higher than I expected. The mortgage payment for the Ardmore house, $1,900 a month. I had been covering it for 3 years. That alone totaled $68,400. Their private health insurance plan, $640 a month for 2.5 years, roughly $21,000. Dad's injury had ended his employer coverage, so they switched to a private plan that I helped pay for. Ashley's car loan, the white Toyota RAV4, she proudly posted on Instagram with the caption, "Blessed, $380 a month for 14 months, about $6,200. Then there were the emergencies. Dad's surgery copay, the roof repair before winter, Ashley's security deposit when she moved out, then moved back in, then moved out again. The dental bill Mom conveniently forgot to mention until it went to collections. By 2 in the morning, the spreadsheet was complete. I leaned back in my chair and stared at the bold total in the bottom corner. $147,000. In 6 years, I had given my family more than an entire year of my salary, and they had just erased me with a voicemail. But the number wasn't the worst discovery that night. The worst part came when I opened the cloud folder where I kept all the supporting documents. My habit of meticulous record-keeping made me good at my job. It also revealed something my family had clearly forgotten. I wasn't just paying for things, I was tied to everything. I was the co-signer on the mortgage. My name appeared on the property deed as co-owner. And I was the sole trustee of my grandmother Eleanor Hayes's trust fund, a $92,000 account she left for family education and medical expenses because, in her words, I was the only one she trusted to manage money responsibly. Every financial thread holding my family's life together ran through me. They told me to leave, but they forgot something important. I was the foundation. I pressed print. The small desktop printer in the corner of my dark apartment came to life, humming as it pushed out page after page of receipts, bank statements, and contracts. I wasn't angry yet. That would come later. Right now, I was simply awake. For the first time in years, completely awake. Morning arrived gray and cold. October in Philadelphia has a certain heaviness to it, a sky so flat and low it feels like a ceiling pressing down on the city. I made coffee without thinking, opened my laptop, and logged into the joint checking account. This was the household account I had created 2 years earlier to simplify everything. Mortgage payments, utilities, insurance, routine bills. Everything flowed through one place. My money went in. Everyone else's expenses went out. The account dashboard loaded, and something immediately caught my attention. The contact email had been changed. My email address had been removed and replaced with another one. I recognized it instantly. Ashley's. The change was time-stamped 2 days before the voicemail. 2 days. I sat there staring at the screen, letting that information settle. My sister had altered the contact details on the account before my mother recorded that message. That voicemail hadn't been emotional. It had been procedural, another step in a plan. I kept digging. Buried beneath work emails in my inbox was a forwarded message from the title company managing the Ardmore house. The subject line read, "Beneficiary Amendment, Confirmation Pending." I opened the attachment. The document requested my removal from the property deed. Submitted electronically by Ashley Hayes, listed as an authorized family representative. I had never authorized anyone to represent me. I had never agreed to be removed from anything. My coffee sat untouched on the desk as it slowly turned cold. And in that dim morning light, with my laptop glowing and my phone still lying face down from the night before, everything finally clicked. Ashley didn't actually want me out of the family. That was just the story. What she really wanted was to remove me from the paperwork, from the deed, from the trust, from every document that proved I was the one who built the financial structure they lived on. The voicemail was just a distraction. The real theft was happening in the records. And there's something you should understand about me. I work in risk analysis. Spotting patterns of fraud is literally my profession. Which meant my sister had just made the worst gamble of her life. But to understand what happened next, you have to go back further. The voicemail wasn't the beginning. It was the end. The beginning was quieter. The beginning was a kitchen. I was 14 years old. Ashley was 10. Summer break had just started when our parents sat us down at the dining table to explain their plan. Ashley would attend an art camp for 4 weeks. It cost $300. My job would be to stay home. In the mornings, I would watch her until camp started. In the afternoons, I would cook lunch, handle the laundry, and make sure the house didn't fall apart while Mom and Dad worked. I asked if I could go to math camp instead. The community college nearby had a program for students with strong grades. It was completely free. I qualified. Mom shook her head. Someone needs to stay here for your sister. But it's free, I said. Serena, she replied. You're the older one. You understand. And I did understand. Ashley got summers. I got responsibilities. My good grades weren't something to celebrate. They were simply proof that one day I would earn money. That fall, when I made the honor roll, Mom's response was simple. Good. Keep going. One of you needs to make real money someday. She didn't say she was proud. She didn't say I deserved it. Just that I would be useful. That same year, Ashley failed her 6th grade finals. The house rallied around her. Dad took her out for ice cream. Mom sat with her for an hour, brushing her hair back and telling her, "You're more than a test score, sweetheart." I was in the next room. I heard every word. No one ever said anything like that to me. Not because I was struggling, because I wasn't supposed to need comfort. I was the reliable one, the strong one, the one who could handle things. Mom said it to me directly once. I was a sophomore in college and mentioned during a phone call that I was feeling overwhelmed. Her response was simple. You're the strong one, Serena. Ashley needs me more. 7 words. I carried them in my chest like a brick for the next decade. My first real paycheck arrived the summer after graduation. I was 21. My student loans were already collecting interest, and I had just started working at a consulting firm where 60-hour weeks were normal. I felt proud of myself for about 4 hours. Then Mom called. Dad had injured his back on a job. Because he was technically working as a subcontractor, workers' compensation wouldn't cover the medical costs. The hospital bill was about $2,000. Could I help? I sent the money that night. 3 weeks later, Ashley needed $1,200 for the security deposit on her first apartment. She was 17, almost 18, and about to begin cosmetology school. I asked Mom carefully, "Does Ashley have any savings?" The silence on the other end of the phone felt sharp. "She's your little sister, Serena. She's just starting out. How can you even ask that?" So I sent the money. Meanwhile, my own student debt sat untouched at $38,000. No one asked about it. No one offered to help. It wasn't even discussed. The assumption was simple. Serena is fine. Serena handles things. Serena doesn't need help because Serena never asks for it. During my first year after graduation, I sent home nearly $14,000. Not in one payment. In pieces. A few hundred here, 1,000 there, always urgent, always temporary, always just this once. Eventually, just this once turned into every month. And they never said thank you. Not once. Not in a message. Not in a phone call. Not even at Thanksgiving when I flew home on a budget airline and sat at a table I was quietly financing. That same year my birthday came and went. Mom forgot. But she posted an old photo of Ashley on Facebook that week. 2 months later, Ashley's birthday arrived, and the family threw a party at the house. My role was simple. Order the cake. Pay for it. That winter, I spent 9 straight days eating instant ramen because my bank account was empty. I didn't tell anyone. If I had, Mom would have said I was being dramatic. And the painful truth is that I probably would have believed her. 3 years before the voicemail, Mom called me with what she described as a family opportunity. She and Dad wanted to buy a house, a 3-bedroom place outside the city in a quiet neighborhood with good schools for when grandchildren eventually arrived. She described it like a dream they had earned. The reality was much simpler. Their credit was destroyed. Dad's medical debt, an old missed car payment, and a collection judgment Mom had ignored meant no bank would approve them for a mortgage, so she asked me. "Just co-sign, Serena. Your credit is perfect. The house will technically be in my name, but you'll be on the loan and the deed." "It's the family home," she continued. "One day it will belong to both of you girls." So I said yes. I didn't hire a lawyer. I didn't ask for anything in writing beyond the official mortgage documents. The voice in my head, one my mother had carefully installed over years, kept repeating the same rule. Families don't need contracts. If you ask for one, it means you don't trust us. And if you don't trust us, then you're not really family. So I signed, co-signer on the mortgage, co-owner on the deed. Mom, Nicole Hayes, listed as the primary owner. From that moment forward, the $1,900 mortgage payment left my account every month like clockwork. Ashley moved into the house almost immediately. She claimed the biggest bedroom, decorated it exactly how she wanted, and posted pictures online with captions like, "Home Sweet Home." Whenever I visited, which wasn't often because I was usually working overtime to afford those payments, I slept on the pull-out couch in the den. I was paying for a house where my bed was a couch. About 6 months before the voicemail, something happened that should have warned me. During a family call, I overheard Mom speaking to Ashley in the background. They didn't realize I was still on the line. Mom said, "Once we refinance, we can pull equity out of the house. Don't worry about Serena. I'll handle her." Handle me. Like a problem. Like a line item in a budget. I didn't confront them. I convinced myself I had misunderstood. But when I ended the call, my hands were shaking so badly that the spreadsheet on my screen blurred. My grandmother, Mom's mother, Eleanor Hayes, had died 4 years earlier. Lung cancer. Fast and merciless. From diagnosis to funeral in just 11 weeks. But she remained sharp right until the end. 2 months before she passed, she updated her trust. She set aside $92,000 for the family's education and medical needs, and she named exactly one trustee to manage it. Me. Not Mom. Not Ashley. Me. I remember the lawyer reading the document aloud. Mom's expression froze when my name was mentioned. She didn't protest in the office, not in front of the attorney. But later, in the car, she said quietly, "Your grandmother didn't understand how families work. That money should be managed together." "I am the family, Mom," I replied. She didn't answer. For 3 years, the trust sat quietly, untouched. Then Ashley came to me with a request. She wanted $15,000 to start an online resale business she had seen someone running on social media. She had no business plan, no projections, nothing except enthusiasm and a link to a wholesale supplier. I told her no, not to punish her. Simply because the trust rules were clear: education and medical expenses only. It wasn't a startup fund for risky business ideas. Ashley cried. Of course she did. She called Mom. Then Mom called me. "Your grandmother would have wanted to help Ashley," she said. "You're being controlling." "I'm following the trust agreement," I answered. "That's literally my legal responsibility." Ashley didn't speak to me for 2 months after that. During those 2 months, a cousin quietly mentioned something to me. Apparently, Ashley had been telling relatives that I was hoarding Grandma's money and probably spending it on myself. I didn't bother correcting the story. I was too tired to fight ghosts. But what mattered most was something else. Something I didn't realize at the time would later become my strongest piece of evidence. 2 months before the voicemail, Ashley called me out of the blue. She said she wanted to clear the air between us. Her voice sounded unusually warm, almost affectionate, the way sisters on television talk to each other. We spoke for about 40 minutes, and near the end of the conversation, her guard slipped. Or maybe she simply became careless. "Honestly, Serena," she said casually, "I just need you off the trust and off the deed. Once that happens, everything gets simpler for everyone. She said it like it was perfectly reasonable, like asking me to erase myself from my own life was a favor I should be happy to grant. What she didn't know, and couldn't possibly have known, was that the call was being recorded. Not because I planned to trap her. Recording long phone calls had become a professional habit of mine. My phone automatically logs any conversation longer than 10 minutes with certain contacts, including family members. The app announces the recording with a brief notification tone at the beginning. Ashley either didn't hear it or didn't care. When the call ended, I saved the file in 3 places: the cloud, a USB drive, and an email to myself labeled just in case. That night, lying in bed, I kept circling back to one question. Why did Ashley need me gone so badly? We had grown up in the same house. I packed her lunches when Mom worked late. I co-signed the loan for her first car. And somehow I had become the villain in a story she was telling everyone else. I still don't fully understand it. Maybe you do. If you've ever been the dependable one, the person everyone leans on until they no longer need you, why do you think people turn on you like that? 2 days after the voicemail, on Wednesday morning, I walked into my office looking like I had slept inside a paper shredder. My colleague Daniel Brooks noticed immediately. Daniel was 7 years older than me, a CPA with a calm, analytical personality. Clients trusted him because he could look at the ugliest financial mess imaginable and remain completely composed. We had worked together on dozens of audits. He wasn't the kind of person who pried into other people's lives. But that morning, he did. I had gone to the break room to grab coffee. When I returned, Daniel was standing beside my desk, staring at my laptop screen. Not sitting. Standing there like he had stopped mid-step. My spreadsheet was still open. Family financial obligations. Serena Hayes. The total was bold at the bottom. He looked at the screen, then at me. Serena, he said quietly. I don't want to overstep, but that spreadsheet, is that money people owe you or money you gave them? I could have lied. I could have said it was a client file or a hypothetical example. But I had slept 4 hours in 2 days, and the weight of pretending everything was fine for the past decade had finally cracked. So I told him. Not every detail, just the outline, the voicemail, being removed from the group chat, the house, the trust, the number at the bottom of the spreadsheet. Daniel didn't react the way most people would. He didn't gasp or curse or tell me how terrible it all sounded. He simply went quiet, and when Daniel Brooks goes quiet, it means he's thinking. 10 seconds passed. Daniel Brooks said something that completely shifted the way I was thinking. Serena, he said carefully, I've stood exactly where you're standing. The details were different, but the structure was the same. My father pulled something very similar when I was 29. He paused for a moment before continuing. And the advice I wish someone had given me back then is this: you don't need to call them back, you need to call a lawyer. He grabbed a sticky note, wrote down a name, and slid it across my desk. Laura Bennett, real estate and trust attorney. A Philadelphia number was written beneath it. I looked at the note, then back at him. She's good, Daniel added quietly. She's the reason I didn't lose my house. I slipped the note into my wallet. It stayed there for exactly 7 hours. 7 hours was how long it took for me to discover the next piece of the puzzle. That evening, back in my apartment, I gathered every document I had and reviewed them the way I would analyze a client's financial portfolio. Slowly, line by line, searching for anything that didn't match. I opened the email from the title company again, the one requesting my removal from the property deed. I had seen it that morning but hadn't examined the attachment closely. Now I did. The form itself was standard, a beneficiary amendment request. At the bottom were 2 signature lines, one for Nicole Hayes, listed as the primary owner, the other for Serena Hayes, co-owner. Both lines were signed. I zoomed in on my signature. My stomach went cold. At first glance it looked convincing. Whoever had done it had clearly studied my handwriting. The slant matched, the size matched. Even the small tail I leave at the end of the N in Serena was copied. But one detail was wrong. The O in Hayes. When I sign documents quickly, I write my capital O with a slight open loop. It's a habit I developed after years of signing financial paperwork. The O on this form was closed, a tiny detail, the kind of detail only I would notice. But it meant one thing. Someone had forged my signature in order to remove me from the deed of a house I had already paid more than $68,000 toward. I checked the submission information attached to the document. Submitted electronically by Ashley Hayes. Authorized Family Representative Submission. Date, 3 days before the voicemail. 3 days. I leaned back in my chair and let the timeline assemble itself. First, Ashley submitted the forged document removing me from the deed. Then she changed the contact email on the joint bank account. And only after those steps were complete did Mom leave the voicemail. This hadn't been a family argument that spiraled out of control. It was a plan. Step 1. Step 2. Step 3. Remove me from the paperwork first, then remove me from the family so I wouldn't be watching the documents while they pushed me out the door. My sister hadn't just betrayed me. She had run a project, and in my profession, every project leaves a trail. The next morning I called the number Daniel had given me. The receptionist put me through to Laura Bennett in less than 3 minutes once I mentioned 2 specific phrases: forged signature and pending title amendment. Her office was located in a renovated brownstone near Rittenhouse Square. Bookshelves lined the walls from floor to ceiling. A glass desk reflected the overhead lights, and the chair across from her was firm enough to keep anyone from relaxing too much. She offered me water. I declined. I didn't want comfort. I wanted clarity. I placed my folder on her desk. Inside were the mortgage contract, the deed, the forged amendment form, the title company email, the spreadsheet detailing the $147,000 I had contributed to the family, and the bank notification showing that Ashley had changed the contact email on the joint account. Laura reviewed the documents the way a surgeon studies a scan. Slowly, quietly, without expression. She placed the forged signature beside my real one from the original mortgage paperwork and compared them carefully. After a minute, she removed her glasses and looked at me. "Miss Hayes," she said, "you have 2 problems and 1 advantage." She tapped the forged amendment form. Problem number 1. Someone committed fraud using your identity. The difference in the signature alone could support a forgery claim. Then she tapped the title company email. Problem number 2. There's a refinance process underway on a property you co-own, and it appears to be happening without your consent or knowledge. She leaned back slightly. Both of those are serious issues. She paused before continuing. Your advantage, however, is simple. You're the co-signer on the mortgage. You're also listed as a co-owner on the deed, and according to these documents, you're the sole trustee of the Eleanor Hayes Family Trust. She folded her hands. That means nothing moves without your signature. Not the refinance, not the deed change, not a single dollar from that trust. She pointed again to the forged document. And the one thing they couldn't actually obtain was your real signature. I sat quietly for a moment before asking the question that had been forming in my mind since Tuesday night. What happens if I stop? She tilted her head slightly. Stop what? Everything, I said. Stop paying the mortgage. Stop signing documents. Stop being the infrastructure that holds this whole thing together. Laura folded her hands again. Then the entire system collapses under its own weight. She explained it calmly. The bank will issue notices. The refinance process will die. The trust remains locked. Every financial structure they depend on freezes until you decide otherwise. She let the words settle before adding one final detail. There is something else you should be aware of. A forged signature on a deed amendment isn't just a civil issue. In Pennsylvania, that can qualify as a felony offense. She paused. I'm not saying you have to pursue that route, but you should understand that you have the option. Suddenly, the chair didn't feel uncomfortable anymore. That evening, back in my apartment, I opened the recording app on my phone. I hadn't listened to Ashley's call since the night it happened 2 months earlier. At the time, I had filed that call away under annoying but harmless. Just Ashley being Ashley, trying to maneuver her way into getting what she wanted with a soft voice and a sideways request. But now, with everything I had uncovered, the conversation sounded completely different. I put my earbuds in and pressed play. Ashley's voice filled my head, warm and relaxed, the way she always sounded when she wanted something but hadn't asked for it directly yet. Honestly, Serena, you're so busy all the time. You've got your job, your apartment, your whole life in Philadelphia. Wouldn't it just be easier if you stepped back a little? Let Mom handle the trust and the house stuff. If your name wasn't on everything, you wouldn't have to worry about the payments anymore. That would probably be a relief, right? When I first heard those words, I had assumed she was simply being awkward, not malicious. Just Ashley trying to make things simpler for herself. Then the line came, minute 32 of the recording. I just need you off the trust and off the deed. Then everything gets simpler for everyone. I paused the audio, rewound it, played it again. I just need you off the trust and off the deed. Need. Not want. Not maybe it would help. Need. She had told me exactly what she planned to do. She said it clearly, into a phone that had announced the recording at the beginning of the call. And when I didn't volunteer to disappear from the paperwork, she forged my signature and had Mom deliver the eviction notice disguised as a family decision. I saved the recording again. Cloud storage, USB drive. And another copy emailed to myself. 3 backups. Because in my family, the truth had a habit of disappearing. I didn't yet know exactly when I would use that recording, or how. But I knew one thing for certain. It was the card Ashley didn't realize I held. And I would wait until the perfect moment to put it on the table. Friday afternoon, I returned to Laura Bennett's office. I sat across from her with a legal pad covered in notes on both sides. She had her own pad filled with bullet points. Let's go through this step by step, she said. What you're legally allowed to do, and what the consequences will be, for them and for you. She started with the first move. Step 1. Notify the bank that the deed amendment was submitted with a forged signature. Laura explained she would send a formal letter with documentation. My real signature from the original mortgage paperwork would be placed beside the forged one on the amendment form. That alone would require the bank to halt the refinance process immediately while an investigation took place. Step 2, she continued. As trustee of the Eleanor Hayes Family Trust, you have full authority to freeze all distributions. No court order required, no approval from any family member, 1 signature from me, 1 call to the trust management institution, and the entire $92,000 trust account would be locked down. Step 3, she said, tapping her pen against the pad. You stop the automatic mortgage payments. I was the co-signer on the loan. Nicole Hayes was the primary borrower. If I stopped paying, the full obligation would shift to her. Her credit score alone couldn't support the loan. Within 30 days, the bank would issue a formal notice. If she couldn't refinance or catch up on payments, foreclosure proceedings would begin. Step 4, Laura added. I'll send a cease and desist letter informing your family that you are withdrawing from all shared financial obligations effective immediately. I listened carefully to each step. Then I asked the question that had been sitting in my chest since Tuesday night. What happens if they lose the house? Laura didn't hesitate. Serena, they told you to leave. You're leaving. She leaned forward slightly. You're not taking their house away. You're removing yourself from a loan they cannot maintain without you. If the structure collapses after that, then it was never stable in the first place. I picked up the pen and signed the authorization letter. The pen felt heavier than it should have, not because I doubted the decision, because I understood that once the ink dried, there was no reversing it. No quiet reconciliation, no late-night phone call where everything magically returned to normal. I wasn't burning a bridge, I was simply stepping off of it. The following Monday, during my lunch break, I drove to the bank that managed my grandmother's trust. The branch was quiet. A few customers stood at the teller windows. Soft background music played somewhere overhead, blending with the faint hum of fluorescent lights. I sat down across from a trust officer named Kevin Mitchell. He was a polite man wearing a blue tie, constantly clicking a pen between his fingers as he spoke. I placed my documents on the desk. My trustee identification, photo ID, the original trust paperwork, and a letter from Laura confirming my legal authority. Kevin reviewed everything carefully, clicking his pen again and again. After a moment, he looked up. Ms. Hayes, according to these documents, you are the sole trustee of this account. There are no co-trustees, no secondary signatories, and no beneficiaries authorized to withdraw funds. Click. What would you like to do today? I'd like to place a full freeze on all distributions from this trust, I said. Effective immediately. No withdrawals, no transfers, no disbursements unless I approve them in writing. He blinked. Is there a particular reason for the freeze? I have concerns about possible unauthorized access, I replied calmly. I'd like to review the account activity before allowing any further movement. That explanation made sense to him. He typed quietly for about 2 minutes, printed a form, and slid it across the desk. I signed. Just like that, $92,000 was locked down. Kevin nodded. You'll receive confirmation by email within the hour. No one else will be able to access these funds without your written authorization and a notarized release. Thank you, I said. I stepped outside into the October sunlight. The air felt crisp. Leaves were turning shades of gold and red along the street. For a moment, I stood on the sidewalk and noticed something I hadn't expected. It wasn't triumph. It wasn't revenge. It was lightness. The feeling of setting down a suitcase you hadn't realized you'd been carrying through every doorway for years. Step 1 was complete. The trust was secure. My grandmother's money was safe. But the real earthquake hadn't happened yet. Because when Ashley tried to access that account, and I had no doubt she would, she was going to run straight into a wall she couldn't charm, cry through, or forge her way around. And that wall had my name on it. By Tuesday morning, Laura Bennett's paralegal had already sent 3 emails before noon. The first went to the mortgage lender. It was a formal notice reporting signature fraud on the deed amendment form. Attached was a side-by-side comparison of my authentic signature from the original mortgage documents and the forged one submitted on the amendment, along with my sworn affidavit stating that I had never authorized the change. Laura's letter demanded an immediate suspension of all pending transactions connected to the property until the bank completed its internal investigation. The second email went to the same lender. It informed them that I, as co-signer on the mortgage, was terminating my automatic payment authorization starting with the next billing cycle. The letter referenced my legal right to stop voluntary payments on a loan where the primary borrower, Nicole Hayes, had attempted unauthorized changes without my consent. The third email was sent directly to my family. Addressed to Nicole Hayes, it served as a formal cease and desist notice. The message stated in clear legal language that Serena Hayes was withdrawing from all shared financial obligations effective immediately. No further payments would be made toward the mortgage, insurance, or any other family expense. Any future communication regarding financial matters was to be directed exclusively to Laura Bennett, attorney at law. 3 emails, 12 attachments, 3 clicks of the send button. By 4 o'clock that afternoon, the mortgage lender had responded. The refinance transaction had been frozen pending a fraud investigation. The deed amendment was flagged. No changes to the property title would be processed until further notice. After work, I sat in my car in the parking garage, the engine off, my hands resting on the steering wheel. They were shaking. Not from fear. From the strange dizziness that comes with doing something you know can't be undone. Within 48 to 72 hours, those letters would land. Mom would discover the mortgage payment hadn't been processed. The refinance would be dead. The trust would be locked. Within 30 days, the insurance cancellation notice would arrive. Every safety net I had built beneath them, the invisible structure made of money, signatures, and reliability, was gone. Not cut, just released. The way you drop a rope after the person on the other end tells you they no longer need you. I started the car, pulled out of the garage, and drove through Philadelphia traffic with the windows down, cold air filling the cabin. Then I waited for my phone to ring. It didn't take long. It took exactly 51 hours. Thursday morning, I was at my desk reviewing a client's exposure report when my phone began vibrating. Not the quick buzz of a text. A long, persistent vibration. Then another. And another. I didn't check it immediately. I finished my paragraph, saved the file, and only then flipped the phone over. 19 missed calls from Mom. 8 from Dad, Stephen Hayes. 14 from Ashley. 5 from a number I didn't recognize. 46 calls total. The text messages stacked on the screen like bricks. Mom, Serena, call me right now. Mom, this is not a game. Mom, something happened with the bank and you need to fix it. Ashley, Serena, what did you do? Ashley, the refinance is frozen. They said your lawyer sent something. Ashley, call me now. Dad, honey, please call back. Your mother is very upset. Dad, we need to talk about the situation with the house. And then there was the message that made me pause. An email from the unfamiliar number, professional letterhead, Michael Turner, attorney at law, representing Nicole Hayes. I opened it. Dear Ms. Hayes, I represent your mother, Nicole Hayes, regarding the residential property located at the above address. It has come to our attention that several recent financial actions have occurred which significantly affect our client's interests. We would like to arrange an immediate discussion to explore a potential resolution. Please respond at your earliest convenience. And at the bottom, almost as an afterthought, we have a serious problem. I read the message again, then I leaned back in my chair. And I laughed. Not bitterly, not like a villain in a movie. Just the surprised laugh of someone who had spent 6 years answering every call from her family immediately, only to watch 46 calls go straight to voicemail. 46. I remember thinking, that's roughly 1 call for every $3,000 I gave them. Funny how quickly we're moving on without you turns into please call us back immediately. I picked up my phone, forwarded the email from Michael Turner to Laura Bennett, and added one short line above it. Let's schedule the meeting. Ashley didn't wait for the meeting. Patience had never been her strength. Her texts started arriving Thursday afternoon, spaced just far enough apart to suggest she was pacing while typing. Serena, I don't know what you told the bank, but you need to reverse this. Mom is completely losing it. 12 minutes later. This isn't about you and me, it's about the family. You're putting Mom and Dad in a really dangerous position. 20 minutes after that. I never wanted things to go this far. You know that. People say things when they're upset. And finally, the message she probably thought was her strongest move. You're being unbelievably selfish right now, Serena. Seriously selfish. I sat at the kitchen counter and read every message slowly. Not because I needed to understand them. I understood them perfectly. I read them because I wanted to record the pattern one last time before I stopped participating in it forever. Message 1. Deflect responsibility. Make the situation about what I did, not what she did. Message 2. Deploy the family shield. Use Mom and Dad as emotional leverage. Message 3. Minimize the damage. Reframe the voicemail as something said in anger while conveniently ignoring the forged signature, the changed email, and the carefully planned sequence that led up to it. Message 4 came next. The label. Selfish. The same word Ashley knew I had spent years trying to outrun. The word she understood had been hanging over me since I was 14. 4 messages. Not a single apology. No reference to the voicemail. No mention of the forged signature. Nothing about the deed amendment she had filed under my name without permission. Same Ashley. Same strategy, only louder now that the consequences were real. I typed one response, have your lawyer contact mine. Then I attached Laura Bennett's business card as a contact file. 30 seconds passed in silence. Then the 3 gray typing dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Are you serious right now? I closed the messaging app and set the phone face down on the counter. A final message from Ashley appeared in the notification banner just before I muted the conversation. Fine, but don't blame me for what happens next. I almost smiled. Because that sentence, don't blame me for what happens next, was probably the most honest thing Ashley had said in years. She was already planning her next move and trying to secure cover in advance. The difference this time was simple. I had a plan too, and mine came with documentation. Friday evening, I was in my kitchen making dinner. Just pasta. Nothing elaborate. Mostly something to keep my hands busy. My phone rang. Dad's number. I answered almost automatically. The last time my father had called twice in a single week was when he had landed in the emergency room. Habit took over. The responsible daughter answering the responsible call. But it wasn't Dad. Serena Marie Hayes. My mother's voice. Full name. The tone she used when she wanted me to feel 11 years old again. "I don't know what has gotten into you," Nicole Hayes said sharply, "but you are destroying this family. Your father hasn't slept in 3 days. The bank sent a letter about the mortgage. The insurance company says our coverage is ending. And now Ashley tells me you're hiding behind a lawyer like we're strangers." I lowered the stove burner to low. "Mom," I said calmly, "you left me a voicemail telling me not to come back. I'm doing exactly what you asked." "That was because I was upset. You know how I get. But freezing accounts? Stopping payments? This is you being vindictive on purpose." "I stopped paying for things that no longer belong to me," I replied. "You said I'm not family. If I'm not family, I'm not financially responsible for the family either." Silence. 2 beats, 3. Then she tried the next move. "After everything I sacrificed for you, after all the years I spent raising you, this is how you repay me?" There it was, the script. The same guilt narrative that had kept me writing checks for 6 years. I sacrificed. You owe me. An invisible family ledger where my side of the balance was always negative. "Mom," I said quietly, "I'm not repaying anything. I'm done paying. There's a difference." Her breathing sharpened. "You will regret this, Serena. I'm telling you right now, one day you'll look back on this moment and feel ashamed." "Maybe," I said. "But if I'm ashamed, it will be for my own reasons, not because you told me to be." I ended the call. I set the phone on the counter beside the stove. My hands were shaking. The pot of pasta water had started boiling over, hissing against the burner. I wasn't crying. Or if I was, it wasn't guilt. It was the grief that arrives when you finally realize the person you kept hoping your mother would become never actually existed, and no amount of mortgage payments was ever going to build her into that person. I turned the burner off. I wasn't hungry anymore. But one detail stayed with me as I stood there in the quiet kitchen with steam rising around me. Mom had never mentioned the forged signature, not once, which meant one of 2 things. Either she didn't know what Ashley had done, or she knew, and had decided it didn't matter. I wasn't sure which possibility was worse. By Saturday morning, my phone had turned into a bulletin board of messages from relatives I hadn't spoken to in months. First came a text from Aunt Patricia Collins, Mom's younger sister. "Honey, your mother is beside herself. Whatever this disagreement is, can't you two just talk? She says you're trying to take the house." Then Uncle Edward Hayes, from Dad's side. "Heard some things through the family grapevine. You know family should come first, right? Don't let money ruin what matters." Then a cousin I had met exactly twice in my life. "Hey Serena, not really sure what's going on, but Ashley seems really hurt. Maybe you should call your mom." The messages kept coming all morning. Different words, same fingerprints. Eventually I opened Facebook. I hadn't posted anything in weeks, but I had a feeling. And there it was. Ashley's newest status update, posted at 11 p.m. the night before. When your own blood turns their back on you over money, family should never be about transactions. Some people only care about control. Praying for healing. 47 likes. Emojis. Prayer hands. "Stay strong, babe." From people who had no idea what had actually happened. One comment from Aunt Patricia. "We love you, sweetie. The truth always comes out." Yes, I thought. It does. My chest tightened. The old instinct kicked in. Explain everything. Correct the story. Post the receipts. Show the spreadsheet. The forged signature. The voicemail. I typed 3 different responses. deleted all 3. Then I remembered something Daniel Brooks had told me 2 days earlier while we were drinking coffee. I had admitted that I was terrified of becoming the villain in Ashley's story. Daniel stirred his coffee slowly and said, without even looking up, "Don't fight the narrative on their turf. Bring the truth into the right room." The right room, not Facebook, not a family group chat, not a phone call where Mom could hang up the moment the facts became uncomfortable. A room with a table, with lawyers, with documents, a place where tears couldn't override evidence and where I'm the victim had to compete with timestamps. I closed Facebook, opened my email, and wrote to Laura Bennett. "I think it's time for the meeting. All of them. Face to face with the documents." Laura replied 11 minutes later. "Agreed. I'll coordinate with Michael Turner." Friday. My office. 5 days. 5 days until every story Ashley had told would have to survive a conference table. I set my phone on the kitchen counter and poured myself a second cup of coffee. My hands were steady. Monday afternoon, Laura Bennett called me from her office and put the phone on speaker so I could listen while she spoke with Michael Turner, the attorney representing my mother. The conversation was polite in the same way a chess match is polite. Every sentence deliberate, every word measured. "Mr. Turner," Laura began calmly, "I represent Serena Hayes. As you know, my client is the co-signer on the mortgage and co-owner of the deed for the property currently occupied by your client. She is also the sole trustee of the Eleanor Hayes Family Trust." "I'm aware of the financial structure," Turner replied. His voice carried that careful, neutral tone lawyers use when they're choosing every word. "Then you should also be aware," Laura continued, "that a deed amendment form was submitted to the title company bearing my client's signature, a signature my client did not execute. A side-by-side comparison shows clear discrepancies. The bank's fraud department has already flagged the document and frozen the pending refinance." Silence. I counted it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 seconds of quiet from a man who probably charged $400 an hour. Finally, he spoke again. "Are you alleging," Turner said slowly, "that my client submitted a forged document?" "I'm stating that a document carrying my client's name was filed with a signature she did not provide," Laura replied evenly. "Both the title company and the lender have been notified. The bank's fraud investigation is already underway and independent of our office." Another pause followed. When Turner spoke again, the calm edge in his voice had tightened. "I'll need to discuss this with my clients." "I would recommend doing that quickly," Laura answered. "Preferably before the bank's fraud division does it for you." They confirmed the meeting for Friday. When the call ended, Laura turned to me. "The pause told me everything," she said. "He didn't know about the forged signature." She folded her hands on the desk. "That means one of 2 things. Either your mother never told her own attorney, or she didn't know." "If Mom didn't know," I said quietly, "then Ashley did this alone." Laura tilted her head slightly. "Did she tell anyone?" "Yes," I said. "Me." "On a recorded call." Laura's eyes narrowed slightly, not in suspicion, but in something closer to satisfaction. "Friday is going to be very interesting." Wednesday evening, I was cleaning up after dinner, rinsing dishes under the sink, when my phone rang. Dad. Actually, Dad this time. "Serena." His voice sounded softer than I had ever heard it. Not angry, not trying to imitate Mom's authority. Just tired. The kind of tired that settles into a person's bones. "Hi, Dad." "Our lawyer called today," Stephen Hayes said slowly. "He mentioned there's an issue with the paperwork on the house, something about a signature that doesn't match." He paused. I let the silence stretch while the water continued running into the sink. "He said someone might have signed your name on a document." "That's correct," I replied. Another pause. "Do you know who did it?" "You should ask Ashley." The breathing on the other end of the phone stopped. "Ashley?" "The amendment form was submitted under her name," I said. "Listed as an authorized family representative. She filed it 3 days before Mom left me that voicemail." Silence. long enough that I briefly checked the screen to make sure the call hadn't dropped. It hadn't. The timer was still counting. "You're sure about this?" he asked finally. "I have the submission records," I said. "My lawyer has the signature comparison. The bank has already flagged it as potential fraud." "Yes, Dad. I'm sure." I heard a faint sound through the phone. A chair creaking. Maybe he had just sat down. Or maybe his knees had given out a little. "I'll talk to your mother about this." And there it was. The sentence I had heard 100 times growing up. "Let me talk to your mother." The permanent deferral. A man who never quite formed an opinion before clearing it with Nicole Hayes first. "Dad," I said quietly, "I'm not asking for permission, and I'm not asking you to fix it. You asked me a question, I answered it. If the family wants to resolve this," I added, "we'll do it Friday, Laura's office, with documents." "Serena, I love you, Dad," I said, "but I'm done talking through walls." I ended the call. The water in the sink had gone cold. I dried my hands slowly and stood there in the quiet kitchen for a long time. What struck me wasn't anger, it was sadness. The sound of a 59-year-old man realizing that the daughter who had been telling the truth all along was the one he had spent decades not listening to. Thursday morning, Laura's assistant sent the formal meeting invitation to Michael Turner's office. The meeting would take place Friday at 2 p.m. in Laura's conference room. Attendees: Serena Hayes, Nicole Hayes, Stephen Hayes, Ashley Hayes, Laura Bennett, Michael Turner. Before the meeting, Laura and I reviewed the rules. If I was going to sit across a table from my entire family for the first time since the voicemail, emotion couldn't control the room. Structure had to. Rule 1: no shouting. If anyone raised their voice, the meeting would end immediately. This wasn't a family argument in a kitchen, it was a professional discussion. Rule 2: every claim required documentation. Anyone could say whatever they wanted in that room. But if they expected their words to matter, they needed evidence behind them. Paper. Rule 3 was simple. I would present first, my timeline, my documentation, my evidence, no interruptions. Questions would come afterward. Michael Turner agreed to all 3 rules within the hour. He didn't challenge a single one. That told me something important. His clients needed me far more than I needed them. They needed my signature, my payments, my cooperation. Without those things, they were facing a frozen refinance, a canceled insurance policy, a locked trust fund, and a mortgage they couldn't carry alone. So I prepared my folder the same way I prepare a client portfolio: organized, labeled, devastating. Tab 1. The spreadsheet. $147,000 in total contributions. Tab 2. The forged signature placed beside my authentic one. Tab 3. The email trail showing Ashley's unauthorized changes to the joint bank account. Tab 4. The timeline. Deed amendment, email change, voicemail, removal from the family group chat. Every event dated, every action documented. And tucked inside the back cover, sealed in a small envelope, was a USB drive containing the recording. I still hadn't decided if I would play it. That depended entirely on what happened in the room, on whether Ashley would tell the truth, or whether she would follow her usual script. That evening, Daniel Brooks texted me. "Ready for tomorrow?" I replied, folder packed, hands steady. He answered a minute later. "You don't owe them an explanation. They owe you one. Go get it." I set my alarm for 6 in the morning, laid out my clothes, and forced myself to drink chamomile tea, something I hate, but someone once told me it helps calm nerves. The tea didn't help. The folder on my nightstand did. Friday, 2 p.m. Laura Bennett's conference room, 3rd floor of the brownstone. Glass walls, a long walnut table, 6 leather chairs, a pitcher of water no one would touch. I arrived 10 minutes early and placed my folder on the table, carefully aligning the edges. Laura sat to my left, laptop open, notepad ready. Neither of us spoke. The room smelled faintly of printer toner and lemon cleaning solution. At 1:58, the door opened. Mom, Nicole Hayes, walked in first. Navy blouse, chin lifted, her purse pressed against her side like armor. She looked at me for exactly 1 second. Not at my face, at the folder. Then she crossed the room and sat in the far chair without saying a word. Dad, Stephen Hayes, came in behind her. Gray polo shirt, hands in his pockets. He glanced at me and something crossed his expression. Not quite guilt, not quite shame, something in between. He sat beside Mom and folded his hands on the table. Then Ashley entered. Last. That part was deliberate. She wore a pale pink cardigan over a white blouse. Her eyes were red around the edges, recently rubbed. Maybe real tears, maybe practiced ones. Her lower lip trembled slightly, the same expression she had perfected back in elementary school. She pulled her chair close to Mom's and reached for her hand beneath the table. The performance was flawless. If you didn't know the script, you would think she was the victim here. Michael Turner stepped in behind her. Gray suit, firm handshake with Laura, a brief nod in my direction. He took the seat at the end of the table, positioned between both sides. Technically neutral, practically useless. Laura opened the meeting. Thank you all for coming. This meeting exists to address the financial and legal matters that have arisen in recent weeks. As previously agreed, Serena Hayes will present first. She will not be interrupted. I opened the folder. Then I looked up. For the first time since that voicemail tried to erase me from the family, I met my mother's eyes. I'll begin, I said, with a number. I slid the spreadsheet into the center of the table. 5 copies. 1 for each person. 1 for the record. $147,000. I let the number hang in the air. No one moved. That, I said calmly, is what I have contributed to this family over the past 6 years. I tapped the page. Mortgage payments on the Ardmore house, $68,400. Their private health insurance plan, $21,000. Ashley's car loan, $6,200. Emergency expenses, surgery bills, roof repairs, security deposits, dental work, the rest. I paused. Every payment is documented. Dates, amounts, bank records, it's all on that sheet. Mom's eyes moved slowly down the page. I watched her read it the way someone reads an unexpected medical report. This, I said quietly, is what I gave. Not as a loan, not because of a contract, simply because I believed that was what family meant. Mom opened her mouth to speak. Laura raised a single finger. Calm, firm. Mrs. Hayes, you'll have your opportunity. I removed the next document from the folder, 2 pages. Side by side. I placed them on the table and rotated them so everyone could see clearly. On the left, I said, is my signature from the original mortgage contract signed 3 years ago. I tapped the second page. On the right is a signature submitted on a deed amendment requesting my removal from the property title. I paused. I did not sign this form. I did not authorize it. And I didn't know it existed until I discovered it in my email, after being removed from this family by voicemail. Michael Turner leaned forward, examining the 2 signatures carefully. His jaw tightened. The document, I continued, was submitted electronically by Ashley Hayes, listed as an authorized family representative. I let the next sentence land slowly. 3 days before the voicemail. The room shifted. No noise, just pressure in the air. Dad's hand moved to his forehead. Turner leaned back slowly in his chair. Ashley's grip tightened on Mom's hand beneath the table. And Mom looked at the documents, then at me. Then finally, for the first time since entering the room, she turned toward Ashley. What is this? She's saying someone forged my signature, I said calmly, to remove my ownership from a house I paid for. I didn't say who did it. I didn't have to. Every eye in the room had already turned toward Ashley. Ashley released Mom's hand. That's insane, she said quickly. I didn't forge anything. Her voice rose as she spoke. Serena is doing what she always does. She's twisting things. She's manipulating the situation to make herself look like the victim because she can't accept that we— I didn't raise my voice. I didn't need to raise my voice. Ashley. Just one word. Flat. Quiet. It cut through her sentence like a blade through paper. Before you finish that thought, I said calmly, I want you to hear something. I reached into the back of my folder, pulled out the small envelope, and removed the USB drive. Laura's laptop was already connected to the speaker sitting on the conference table. I plugged the drive in, opened the file, and let the cursor hover over the play button. This is a recording of a phone call between Ashley and me, I said. It happened 2 months before the voicemail. The call was disclosed at the beginning. My recording app announces itself with an audible notification tone. I glanced toward Michael Turner. If you want to challenge the authenticity, Mr. Turner can have the file verified. Ashley's face drained of color. Not red, white. The kind of white that appears when blood suddenly leaves the surface. I pressed play. Her voice filled the room. Warm, casual, persuasive. I just need you off the trust and off the deed. Then everything gets simpler for everyone. The recording ended. No one moved. I looked at my mother. She was staring at the speaker like it had physically struck her. Her lips parted slightly, but no words came. I looked at Dad. His eyes were closed. His hand still pressed against his forehead. I looked at Michael Turner. He had set his pen down and folded his hands together, the quiet posture of a lawyer recalculating the position of the board. And finally I looked at Ashley. She was staring at Mom, waiting for the lifeline she had always relied on. The immediate defense, the familiar she didn't mean it, the automatic redirection of blame toward me. Mom didn't look back. 15 seconds of silence. I counted them the way you count seconds between lightning and thunder, measuring how close the strike really was. It was the loudest silence my family had ever produced. Ashley cracked first. That's completely out of context, she said quickly. I didn't mean it like that. I was just talking. People say things. Laura's voice cut in calmly. The recording is time-stamped 2 months before a forged deed amendment bearing Ms. Hayes' signature was submitted. I would say the context is extremely clear. Ashley turned toward Mom again. Her lip trembled. Maybe real tears this time. Maybe not. Mom, you believe me, right? She's twisting everything. She always does that. Nicole Hayes didn't look at her younger daughter. She was staring at the spreadsheet in front of her, at the column labeled total, at the number at the bottom representing 6 years of her oldest daughter's life converted into dollars. 6 years. Paid without a single thank you. She said nothing. And in that silence, precise and devastating, something shifted in the room that would never shift back. I closed my folder slowly. The soft sound of the cover meeting the final page was the only noise in the room. Mom finally turned toward me. Her voice was smaller now. Serena, I didn't know about the signature. I swear to you, I didn't know. I believe you didn't know about the signature, I said quietly. She exhaled, relieved for a second. But you knew when you recorded that voicemail. The relief disappeared. You knew when you removed me from the family group chat. Her shoulders sank. You knew every time Ashley told you a story about me, and you never once called to ask whether it was true. I paused. You chose the version that was easier to believe. And I paid the price for it. In money. In years. In every holiday where I sat at the far end of the table pretending everything was fine. Mom lowered her head. Not quite a nod. More like something inside her gave way just a little. I stood up. Here's what happens next. My voice stayed steady, professional. The same tone I use when delivering a risk report to a client who doesn't want to hear the numbers. The trust will be transferred to a professional management firm. I'm stepping down as trustee, but the terms Grandma established will remain in place. Education and medical expenses only. I looked around the table. I will no longer make payments toward the mortgage. You have 90 days to secure new financing or decide what to do with the property. I will not make another payment. Then I turned slightly toward Michael Turner. As for the forged signature, I'm not filing a criminal complaint at this time. But every document, every message, and every recording has been preserved by my attorney. Finally, I looked at Ashley. She was staring down at the table now, her pink cardigan pulled tight around her shoulders. The performance had collapsed. What remained looked closer to something real. Ashley, I said quietly, I don't hate you, but I don't trust you. And I don't have to. I picked up my folder, nodded once to Laura, and walked toward the door. Dad's voice stopped me. Serena. It cracked when he said my name. I paused with my hand on the handle but didn't turn around. 90 days, Dad, I said. Use them wisely. The door closed behind me with a quiet click. My heels echoed down the hallway, steady, unhurried. I didn't look back. Not because I was angry, because there was nothing left behind me that I hadn't already said. Walking toward my car, I wondered briefly if I should have handled it differently. If I should have been softer. If I should have tried one more conversation before pulling everything apart. A small part of me still wanted to believe a single honest talk could have fixed all of it. But every conversation for the past 6 years had ended the same way. Me apologizing for someone else's lie. Would you have given them another chance? Or would you have walked out of that room exactly the way I did? Tell me. I really want to know. 72 hours after the meeting, everything began to fall exactly where gravity said it would. The house came first. Without me as co-signer, the family's refinance was permanently dead. The bank sent a formal notice soon after. Nicole Hayes had 90 days to either resume full mortgage payments on her own, secure a new co-signer with acceptable credit, or face the beginning of foreclosure proceedings. Her credit score couldn't support the loan by itself. Not even close. Within a week of the meeting, the Eleanor Hayes Family Trust was transferred to a licensed fiduciary firm in Philadelphia. Every dollar was accounted for. Every future withdrawal would now require independent review to confirm it followed the conditions my grandmother had set. Education, medical expenses, nothing else. Ashley could no longer charm, cry, or forge her way anywhere near that money. The insurance situation followed next. 30 days after my cancellation notice, my parents' health coverage ended. By Thursday of that week, Mom was on the phone with the marketplace learning what insurance actually costs when someone else isn't paying the bill. Almost double what I had been covering. 10 days after the meeting, Michael Turner formally withdrew as the Hayes family's attorney. His letter cited irreconcilable factual discrepancies. Polished legal language for a simpler truth. Your daughter committed fraud, and you didn't disclose it. They were now without legal counsel. Meanwhile, the social narrative Ashley had carefully built online began to crack. Patricia Collins, Mom's sister, called her after the meeting and started asking uncomfortable questions. A cousin from Dad's side texted me directly. I heard something about forged documents. Is that true? I didn't respond. I didn't need to. The facts were already doing their own press tour. None of what happened was revenge. I want to be clear about that. I didn't design their collapse. I simply removed myself from a structure that had only been standing because I was holding it up. Once I let go, it behaved like any unsupported structure would. It buckled. Not because I pushed it, because it had never been built to stand on its own. 3 weeks after the meeting, on a quiet Sunday afternoon, I was sitting on my couch reading an actual book. Paper pages, no screen, when my phone rang. Dad. His voice sounded thinner than usual, stretched tight over too many sleepless nights. Serena, I've been meaning to call. Hi, Dad. I want to say I'm sorry. I should have said it earlier. I should have asked questions when your mother sent that voicemail. I should have looked at the paperwork myself instead of assuming someone else had it handled. I waited. Because with Dad, apologies almost always arrived with a second paragraph. But sweetheart, is there any chance you could give us a little more time with the house? There it was. Your mother is looking into options, he continued carefully. But 90 days isn't much time. If you could extend the cosigner arrangement for a few more months until we figure something out. Dad? He stopped. I heard the apology, I said quietly. And I appreciate it. I paused. But I also heard the but. You're not calling just because you're sorry. You're calling because the family needs my signature again. Silence. Then he said quietly, Both, Serena. It's both. Maybe it is, I replied. But the answer is still the same. The 90 days I gave you at the meeting still stand. Nothing changes. Your mother is terrified of losing the house, he said. Then Mom should speak with a financial advisor, I answered. Not me. Another long silence. Then the part that hit hardest. Not his words. The sound of his exhale. A long, defeated sigh. The sigh of a man who knew he was asking the wrong daughter to repair a problem created by the other one, and didn't have the courage to say it out loud. I understand, he said finally. Dad? Yes? I love you. That hasn't changed. But love doesn't mean I set myself on fire to keep someone else warm. Not anymore. He ended the call without saying goodbye, just a quiet click, then silence. The same abrupt silence that had answered difficult questions my entire life. I set the book down and stared at the ceiling. He had apologized and asked for a favor in the same breath. And the hardest part was that I believed he meant both. The apology and the request. He simply didn't understand that one erased the other. Or maybe he did. And that possibility was even sadder. 3 months passed. The leaves disappeared. The first frost came and went. Philadelphia in January looked exactly the way it always does, cold, gray, stubbornly alive. One Saturday morning I sat in a coffee shop near my office. My laptop was open but idle while I watched people pass by outside the window. A completely ordinary Saturday, unremarkable, and that was the point. For the first time in my adult life, ordinary felt like a luxury. The $1,900 mortgage payment that used to leave my account every month now stayed in my savings. I had built an emergency fund for the first time. My student loans were finally shrinking ahead of schedule. I even booked a flight to Portland for a long weekend in February, just because I wanted to see the ocean. I had never booked a trip simply because I wanted to before. Ashley and I hadn't spoken since the meeting. No texts, no voicemails, not even a social media like. Complete silence. Once out of habit, I checked her Facebook page. She had posted a new status. Starting over. No explanation. No mention of me. No mention of the house. Just the carefully edited version of her life presented to an audience that didn't know the backstory. I scrolled past it and felt nothing. That emptiness, the quiet space where guilt used to live, felt closer to freedom than anything I had experienced before. Mom called once about a month after the meeting. Her voice sounded different. Not warm exactly, but the sharp edges had softened. She asked how I was. I said I was fine. She said, "Okay." The conversation lasted about 90 seconds. No guilt, no requests for money, no mention of Ashley. It wasn't healing, it wasn't reconciliation. It was a ceasefire. And for the moment, that was enough. On my birthday, Dad sent a text. 3 words. Happy birthday, Serena. No exclamation point. No emoji. Just my name and a quiet acknowledgement that I still existed. It was the smallest possible gesture. But it was his. The house sold about 6 weeks after the meeting. When it became clear no one was willing to co-sign a new mortgage, Nicole Hayes put the property on the market. I signed the paperwork releasing my name from the deed. The real paperwork this time, with my actual signature. I didn't take a single dollar from the sale. The deed listed Mom as the primary owner, so the remaining equity legally belonged to her. I had already calculated the loss. About $68,000 in mortgage payments on a house I never lived in. I wrote it off, not on my taxes, in my mind. Tuition for the most expensive lesson I had ever learned. That afternoon, I met Daniel Brooks for coffee. He sat down across from me, studied my face for a second, and asked one simple question. How do you feel? I thought about it carefully before answering. Lighter, I said. Like I finally put something down that I didn't realize I'd been carrying. Daniel nodded. He didn't say anything else. He didn't need to. For the first time in 6 years, every dollar I earned belonged to me. Not money I had to give away. Not money I sacrificed to prove I deserved a place in a family that I was already financially supporting. Just mine. Quietly, ordinarily, beautifully mine. I'm not telling this story so that you'll hate my family. I'm telling it because somewhere out there right now, someone is holding their phone and staring at a transfer confirmation for money they can't really afford to send. And they're telling themselves the same thing I told myself for 6 years. It's fine. They're family. This is what family does. Ashley isn't a monster. She's someone who learned early in life that lying could be rewarded and that tears could open doors. No one ever forced her to face a consequence that truly stuck, until that consequence had my name on it and came with a lawyer. My mother isn't evil. She's a woman who built her identity around control, around being the center of a family that followed a script she had written. When I stopped playing my part, she didn't know how to respond except with pressure. That voicemail wasn't cruelty. It was panic disguised as authority. And my father isn't a villain either. He's a man who spent his entire life choosing silence instead of confrontation. One day he realized that silence carries a price too. He's still learning that lesson. I hope he gets there. As for me, I'm the woman who finally realized that the word family is not a blank check. Loving someone does not mean financing their life while they erase yours. Boundaries are not punishment. Boundaries are simply the truth, spoken without apology. I don't know what my family will look like a year from now. I don't know whether there will be a Thanksgiving dinner I attend or a phone call that feels like home again. And for the first time, I'm okay with not knowing. Because I'm no longer building my life around their answer. And maybe that's the real lesson this story leaves behind. For years, I believed loyalty meant endurance. I thought love meant proving my worth through sacrifice, through silence, through writing one more check and telling myself that someday the balance would come back to me. But love that only flows in one direction is not loyalty. It's quiet permission for someone else to erase you piece by piece. The hardest truth I had to learn is this. Being needed is not the same as being valued. When people depend on your strength but never respect your boundaries, they are not asking for love. They are asking for access. And the moment you close that door, they will call you selfish, cold, ungrateful, anything that makes your independence look like betrayal. But boundaries are not cruelty. They are clarity. They are the moment you stop apologizing for protecting the life you worked to build. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do for your family is not saving them again. Sometimes the bravest thing is stepping back and letting them face the consequences of their own choices. Because the day you stop carrying everyone else's weight is the day you finally learn how strong you actually are. And if this story meant something to you, take a moment to let me know. Tap the like button so more people who might be going through the same thing can find this story. Share it with someone who may need the reminder that their boundaries matter too. I'd really love to hear your thoughts. Have you ever been the one holding everything together for your family? What did you do when you realized the weight was too heavy to carry alone? Leave a comment and tell me where you're watching from and what time it is in your part of the world. I read every single one. And so you won't miss the next one. There are many more stories ahead about resilience, difficult choices, and people who finally find the courage to reclaim their lives. Thank you for listening.